And we are live. Back at it again. We took last week off. So today is September 13th, 2022.
Indeed. Where's the Discord? There we are.
Yeah, we should probably jump in there and unmute. There we go. Get these announcements out.
Yep, send out the bat signal.
Let's see. Done.
Man, that's crazy. It's already halfway through September.
I know, right?
When
Time
moon?
is flying right now.
Absolutely. That's why I always giggle at people's price predictions for especially Bitcoin by like the end of the year. I'm like, do you realize how close that is, right? And I'm sure the other markets aren't going to help because after today's CPI number, Fed will probably be raising another 75 basis points, which sucks because that's just setting the tone for rates to go up as I'm on the contract for another deal and my numbers keep getting worse by the day as interest rates keep going up.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think everyone's just kind of expecting that 3/4 of a point raise, but
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I mean CPI ended up being worse than expected. So that kind of threw, well, I already kind of at this point had given up, on them not raising. But I thought maybe there potentially could be a smaller raise if CPI had beat for a second straight month. Instead, it did not. So I think that gives them all the ammunition they need for one more big raise.
Yep.
But we shall see. Either way, though, I mean, the bond markets obviously aren't going to react well to the CPI number. So regardless of what the Fed's doing, it's just not good for mortgage rates.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the markets are pretty crazy right now. We saw that huge bump in crypto, like right before the weekend, over the weekend.
Yep.
That kind of just came out of nowhere.
What's funny though is when you look at the charts, it doesn't even really seem like any kind of notable moves. It's still all like just bouncing around a tight little range. I mean, it's good to see Bitcoin basically, test that 1819 area again and rally, which is like more of the same. But is it just a matter of time where it keeps testing it and fails, or is it, carving out a bottom? I can tell you one thing. I would much like it better if it kind of looked like a cupping pattern instead of a rounded top, bouncing off that support level. All right.
So are you still pretty confident about your post-September walkbacks and market rip?
No, not really. Like I said, I think they're going to do a 75 basis point bump at the next meeting. So my potential theory from back in May is already out the window. I don't even know. I think there's a bigger break after the September meeting, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of crazy predictions about Bitcoin hitting 100K by the end of the year, 50K.
I just don't see what fuels that rally.
Right.
I mean, the bottom line is it's inflows and outflows. I mean, I guess you factor in leverage as well. I mean, people could lever back up. I mean, there's been a delevering, so I guess there's plenty of room to lever back up, and that can create the momentum. But I don't see a move even to 50K. That's insane. It's over 100% in what?
Yeah.
3 months? I mean, I guess it could happen, but I'm just thinking about the chart, what the chart would look like. I mean, it would literally be vertical to pretty much get there. But I mean, let's see. Yeah, I mean, we've gone from we went from 40, to the all-time high up, whatever it was, 68. We did that in the matter of, what is that? 2 months, not even. So, I mean, that would almost get us there. It's a 20, like 28,000 point move.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it is possible. I'm all for it. That would be great. I want to feel rich again.
Yeah,
Feeling rich would be
nobody would
nice.
hate on that.
And man, in fact, if I knew that was definitely going to happen, I'd probably not sell one of my rentals that I'm seriously considering selling just because there's so much equity in it that I can't access.
Um, what would you do with it? You'd sell it, buy some Bitcoin?
No, I just want to have the working capital and lock in the game. Um, but yeah, I'm sure I do some of it for crypto. Honestly, I was actually looking at established small businesses, like to continue to diversify my
Oh,
holdings.
just what would you do with that? Buy into one?
Yeah, well, but yeah, buy one, at least one that's either A, already has a full team in place, or B, one where I know somebody that I could essentially plug in to manage the business. So I was thinking about like, did you ever see there's that chick Cody Sanchez? All she does is basically buy up like quote unquote small boring businesses.
Oh, yeah. I
She's
think I
not
saw her on a
wrong though.
podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the baby boomers are retiring, and a lot of their kids don't want the businesses. So you get these long-standing established businesses that usually are a little outdated, right? You can come in
Yeah.
and update it a little with some technology. But I was thinking about like, especially where I live, like South Florida. I was like, all right, what's like recession proof? And oddly enough, I think anything related to pets, because people will literally like feed their pet before they feed themselves. Like it's crazy. But I was looking around, there's like some dog grooming businesses for sale that have been in business for like 15, 20 years and make pretty decent money. And like, it's not an expensive business to buy.
Yeah. So are there any I guess it's just kind of interesting because we normally don't talk about stuff like this, but what would you look for in a small business that you wanted to buy? Like what are the kind of the first things you would look for to find one? And then once you found one, what is sticking out to you? Is it some multiple on cash flow?
Yeah, I haven't gone
Stuff
too
like
far
that.
down the rabbit hole. There's a standard, there's pretty much a standard for multiples of revenue. And the ratio is eluding me right now for some reason. It's not that high, the number, but yeah, as long as it's in line with that. I mean, honestly, you can just go on any of the kind of like broker sites and find plenty of businesses for sale. Um, and then really for me, it's just finding something that A is in a quote unquote boring space slash, recession proof, that already has, a longstanding established clientele, um, you know, established in its neighborhood, in its area, and maybe some, like I said earlier, some opportunities to create efficiency with technology, and therefore, probably end up reducing costs with that efficiency, and
Yeah.
bump up that profit margin. And again, um, less like sole owner operator, more someone that actually has employees, and they're maybe just in a management role. Um, and then, be able to eventually plug someone into that. But yeah, it was just an idea I started poking around at a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, I love stuff like that. There's this one show I watched a while back called The Profit. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah, I remember that show.
Um, and basically what he did was kind of what you're talking about. He would go to businesses. He would go to ones that I think weren't doing that well though.
Yes.
And then kind of turn them around, take an equity piece and turn them around, which I thought it was kind of like a more in the weeds version of Shark Tank, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like what was that? What was the one with the dude that used to rescue the bars or the restaurants? I think it was bars. Um, what was it called? It might have been called Bar Rescue. And it was like,
I think it
same
was.
thing.
Yeah, I was about to say Bar Rescue sounds familiar.
Yeah, like he did the same similar thing, except for that one was a little more like drama and dramatic. More so like Hell's Kitchen type environment. But yeah, and that's another, option. Like you definitely want to find something where there's at a minimum some inefficiencies and some fat that can be cut.
Yeah.
But
So,
anywho, so
yeah, we've got
I,
if you've noticed me being a little distracted, it's because we just deployed a new update for LeoThreads just right now. So I was hoping we'd get it ready before the AMA, and then had to do a couple last minute things, but it is live. So if you guys go and load the Threads UI, it will load pretty much instantly. So if you've used Threads before, you would have probably noticed that like whenever you try to pull up the UI, it would take anywhere from 30 seconds to say even 2 minutes to load the actual LeoFinance.io/threads page, and obviously that's not a good user experience. There's a lot of different reasons for why that happened. A lot of it was just the way that Lightning was configured and scalability issues, but we basically rewrote the way that threads are basically like displayed, loaded, and the way that we communicate with Hive nodes. So, without going too much into the details of basically how we're doing it, it's kind of got like these two different setups where one setup is constantly updating for the latest threads, and the other one is pulling from the first server continuously on a regular schedule. And basically what that's doing is it kind of, instead of having a bottleneck where you've got all the threads say coming in like this, you've got all the threads coming into one container, and that container is constantly reloading. And then the other container is being used for the actual UI. So the UI is communicating with a singular layer, and then the backend is communicating with a different layer, and then they're communicating with each other, which basically takes that bottleneck overflow and basically like puts it down into two different containers, which is in very simplistic terms just kind of the solution that we needed to make threads a lot faster. Yeah, I think people are gonna be really happy with this update. It's pretty crazy, and yeah, I'm sure cool's got a lot to say. I don't know if people have noticed, but the amount of people using threads is really crazy, and it keeps growing, and all of that, my point is all of that despite this crazy bottleneck in terms of speed, and it hasn't been a very good user experience. So the fact that so many people are still using it is very, very cool to me. Just shows that people are willing to kind of stick with the new technology and stick with it long term. But this new Threads update, I'm anticipating a lot of people who were turned off by the idea of Threads loading so slow will be back on Threads and using it on a regular basis now that it's fast. So I'm excited to see the user stats and our monthly active users grind higher after this update. So yeah, I mean, like in a more macro sense, the focus has really been performance lately. So a lot of people probably noticed, there haven't been any like cool little new features added to Threads. And we do have a lot of features like those on the roadmap. So things like new feeds and ways to organize threads, and then a profile page for threads, stuff like that. We basically pushed that stuff back and focused on performance now, because performance is the key to the user experience. You don't want things to be slow, you want them to be fast. So building a solid foundation that we can then add the new features on top of was our priority. So I'm happy that this update's finally out, and people will get to use it. We've been working on it for a few weeks now, so definitely go play with it. And if you've got questions for the AMA and you're listening right now, go post your questions on the new threads, and we can start getting to them.
I like Alex Van's idea.
Oh, Cal, will you come to McDonald's, or will you come to Hive Fest with a McDonald's cap? I'm actually not going to be making it to Hive Fest this year. I thought I was going to, but then some last minute stuff. Europe is so far away. So I was hoping I could just jump on a plane and come for the weekend and then come home, but I'm not going to be able to make it.
Damn, that international travel.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's really tough because I really wanted to make it, and I was planning on it probably up until like last week. And then last week I was kind of starting to see that I wasn't going to be able to do it, just because I got obligations,
Pretty
digital and
yeah.
IRL.
Yeah, it happens. I think it's pretty sad that I don't even remember when Hive Fest is.
It is this coming weekend.
That is how out of the loop I am. If it's
Yeah,
not if it's not directly Leo, I have no idea. What do we got? Earlier, Mr. Khan said weekly RSI is rising, so bullish divergence. I hope indeed it is, sir. We shall all be happy if the Bitcoin goes higher and drags all the things up with it. And for those of you that are going to see this on the replay, which seems to be many, because I'm looking in the AMA chat from last week and people talking about why can't they ever be lucky enough to catch one live? Well, just be around Tuesday around noon Eastern, and you got like a 75% chance that it'll be happening. We like to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, we got to keep the people engaged by having irregularity in the schedule.
Exactly. No one knows when it's going to be, but it keeps the people going. What's that mean? No one knows what it means.
Oh, from I got this from Kanye West song.
Yeah, but he took it from a movie. I'm quoting a movie.
Oh, I didn't even know that was from a movie.
Oh my God, man, that's crazy.
I thought that was his.
Kanye getting credit for Will Ferrell said it.
Oh.
Will Ferrell said it in a movie.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of hip hop songs do that. That's like Jay-Z did that on albums back in the day. He took lines from like mobster gangster movies. I remember like bumping a CD in college, and this like New York Italian dude who didn't listen to hip hop, like he heard it and I was like, what? He's like, what the hell is that? He was all like offended.
I mean, funny. That's what rap is. It's all about the culture.
A lot of samples.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. Some of the best.
So what are your
great samples?
I wanted to talk about Cub a lot because I feel like there's so much going on with Cub, and I know
hell yeah,
Mitch has been the long time Cub
the long time bag holder.
Yeah, the Cub maxi. So what are your feelings about how Cub is going? And I don't know if you saw the monthly Cub burn report from 2 weeks ago.
It was awesome to see that. I was like,
yeah,
awesome. Some attention, some love.
Yeah, and then 70,000 Cub has been burned so far this month, and we're on pace to burn about 300,000 Cub by the end of the month, which is pretty crazy. It should push us to about 1 million Cub burned. Hopefully we'll push right over that 1 million Cub burned mark, because I think it'll be kind of one of those psychological levels that people are like, holy shit, 1 million Cub has been burned. And before we launched the multi-token bridge, there was a total of 500,000 Cub burned. I think it was like 517,000 Cub burned since the launch of Cub. And then, so literally in the last 2 months, then more Cub has been burned than was burned since the existence of Cub, just from multi-token bridge revenue. because it's that
Yeah,
high.
that's what's huge about it. I mean, as that revenue grows, more CUB gets burned. It'd be interesting to see, like, who knows? Obviously, there's no guarantee that liquidity grows enough and there's enough fees to essentially have the flippening, where we're burning more than is being produced. But in the end, that's the goal. That is the goal.
Yeah, I mean that in that report we talked about something called escape velocity, which could be looked at in two different ways. The definitive version is where CUB is earning so much revenue in the multi-token bridge that it is burning more CUB than is being produced. So right now there's 840,000 CUB being produced every month. And last month we burned about 202,000 CUB. And like I said, this month we're on pace for burning about 300,000. So, essentially 300,000 out of that 840,000 CUB is getting burned. What percentage is that? I think it's like 27%. Let me see. 35%. So basically we're burning 35% of the CUB inflation this month. So Mr. Khan just asked, what's the CUB print rate per month, just comparing with the burn to see when we go deflationary. So 840,000 CUB is minted every single month to pay LP incentives. So, we burned 200,000 last month. That was the first month that the multi-token bridge went live. This is obviously the second month, September. We've burned about 70,000 so far, and we'll most likely burn about 300,000 by the end of the month. And then next month, hopefully we see some continuous growth, and potentially burn 400,000 or so CUB, which would be about 50% of the inflation rate. So that flippening to go completely deflationary, where there's more CUB burned than produced every month, is actually getting pretty close, and it's coming up pretty fast. Last month, I think the total TVL in terms of multi-token bridge pools, I can pull it up in the CUB report actually. The total, let's see. TVL for the multi-token bridge was $297,000 last month for August, and that's when we posted the first CUB burn report. So I think I checked on the numbers yesterday. We just crossed 400,000 in multi-token bridge TVL. So it grew by basically $100,000 in the last 2 weeks in terms of TVL on the bridge. So if we see that pace continue, which I think we will, the amount of CUB getting burned is just going to get exponentially higher, because it's not a linear increase. It's exponential. As the pools get deeper, there's more arbitrage from the internal arbitrage. There's also more arbitrage from people who have bots, as we saw with the HBD pump this morning. I think the BHBD bridge did like $50,000 to $100,000 in wrapping revenue, or not wrapping revenue, but wrapping activity, wrapping volume. Obviously that would be awesome if we did $100,000 in wrapping revenue.
Yes,
maybe one day, we'll do a couple $1 million in wrapping volume, and then we'll start to see those kind of numbers.
I mean, if you think about it, it's feasible if, there's enough liquidity.
Yep. 100%.
So it's all about growing that, which is interesting. So with Hive Fest, so you're not physically going to be going there. Is there going to be any kind of LeoFinance presence, or at least like anything like?
Yeah, we may do
branding, something.
We may do a virtual presentation. We'll see. I still got to talk to head of growth about that.
Okay,
but yeah,
because
there might be something.
The reason I ask is, the reality is right now, as far as like pulling in, new money or new liquidity, a lot of that still comes from, the Hive ecosystem, right? So obviously it makes sense to have some kind of presence in regards to, Hive events to get the word out. And I was just thinking of that, like because it's been forever. I probably this week, I think I'm going to do a post about, LeoFinance and, Cub DeFi, PolyCUB, more so for my Hive blog and for all the followers on that, to see, whatever, it potentially hits a new eyeball or two. And even if it brings just one person over to invest in the Leo universe.
Yeah, I mean, the focus now should definitely be getting Hive people to push assets across the bridge, in the form of Hive and HBD. If we can grow these bridges, we can see those cub burns grow. So like, you see how little TVL it takes to burn as much cub as we're burning. So 200,000 cub burned last month with only $300,000 in TVL. So if that TVL starts to grow, and obviously it's grown from 300,000 to 400,000 this month so far, maybe we'll even see 500,000 by the end of the month. That would be awesome. As we see that grow, if it goes from 300,000 to 400,000 to 500,000 to 750,000 to $1 million to 2 million, just imagine that, on $2 million in bridge TVL, the amount of cub that's going to be burned is just astronomical. It's not just going to be 10x what we burned last month. It'll be exponentially higher than that, just because of all that arbitrage revenue. It's wild. It's really wild. So what I'm anticipating is that, and we're kind of seeing it already play out, is that we got kind of this initial hit with the multi-token bridge where, we got the 300,000 and then we grinded up to 400,000. I think every month we'll just keep grinding that TVL higher and higher. As that TVL grinds higher and higher, the amount of cub getting burned is grinding higher and higher. And that should drive the cub price up over long periods of time. So if you see over the next, 3 to 6 months, the cub price grinding higher because of the burns going up, as the cub price increases, the assets on the bridge also increase because the APYs all increase with the cub price. So it kind of creates this perpetual motion machine that really can bring in it'll vortex in a lot of assets over the long term. So, the real key is kind of getting this initial base layer of assets down where we can reach that escape velocity figure that we talked about. So I don't think I finished that point, but the escape velocity can be looked at in two different ways. One is the very raw term of deflationary, so burning more cub than is minted. So if we can buy back and burn more than 840,000 cub every month, we're flipping deflationary. The other more speculative one, which I think even Neil jumped into general chat and was talking about, is if you're burning more cub than is being sold every single month, then you're not necessarily deflationary in terms of token supply, but you're deflationary in terms of selling pressure, or at least the DAO is making up for all the selling pressure and buying more cub than that, which is grinding the price higher. So if you're looking for kind of like a raw figure of what does it take for the cub DAO to essentially boost the price of cub, it simply needs to buy more cub than is being sold every month. And I'm not sure what that figure is. I haven't looked at it, but I mean, considering that the cub price is higher this month than last month, it's it's looking pretty good for the bridge. We need to grow the bridge liquidity, and as we see that liquidity grow, it's really just gonna take off. I already I've run the numbers in so many different ways, and I'm excited about what it looks like when we start to reach kind of that like 750,000 or $1 million in TVL on the Cub bridge. I think it's just going to get really crazy.
Yeah, looking forward to the momentum. A couple days ago, at least, might have even been longer than that, someone mentioned, and I hadn't tried and harvest the Belt BTC Kingdom. I probably only do that once every couple of weeks, but they were talking about that error popping up where, not able to estimate gas, and it gives you like, half a BNB as a potential fee and all that good stuff. So I actually just tried it out of curiosity. I'm getting that same exact error.
Yeah, I've gotten that before on PolyCUB and maybe on Cub. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
what I would recommend doing, I think this is how I fixed it on PolyCUB, is switch your network to Ethereum and then switch back. Well, I would close the UI, then switch your network from BSC to Ethereum, and then switch back to BSC and then reopen the UI and try it. Because that's usually like an API connection issue. But yeah, if you're seeing that, open a ticket and then me and Nifty will jump in and help you out. I'll try to write down some steps and then we can help you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try a trick. If it doesn't work, then I can either submit a ticket. I don't know if that person in general had submitted a ticket. I think people
I
gave
think
them.
they might have, because Nifty said he's gotten a couple tickets so far.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah,
I'll
I'll jump in with Nifty and we can help you guys.
people in
I'll write
general will
out some
definitely
steps.
giving ideas. Okay, yeah. So he's a few different reports on this on the four belt. I didn't even, honestly. I could try it. I haven't even tried four belt. But yeah, I was just curious because I'd seen it in general, so I figured I'd give it a try. And indeed, I got the same error, which I've never gotten that before on
Yeah.
Bell PTC. I've been lucky not to have any issues all this time. But yeah, let's see. Ethereum, boom. Live troubleshooting.
Yeah, if that doesn't work for you, open a ticket and we'll jump in there.
Yep. Like I said, I'm not really sweating it, but at some point I'll want to harvest. Let's see what we get. Harvest. Yep. Same thing. I tried your little trick, but I got the same issue.
Yeah, just open a ticket and then we'll jump in.
Oh, absolutely.
Help you out.
I'm gonna test
then,
the see if it happens to four belt
Nifty's
since
funny.
Nifty said see if it happens. Oh yeah, same thing with the four belt. So basically, shit, can I do any kingdom? I don't think I'm in any other kingdoms where I have to harvest.
It's most
this
likely
point.
something to do with your with the node that you're connected to. So
It could be. I could switch nodes. I haven't switched nodes. Yeah, it's happening with every kingdom. I just tried the .bnb. Yeah. Normally that's what I would do with like PolyCUB. I would switch nodes. I've been on the same node for Smart Chain for so long. I don't even remember. I used to have some other nodes. Someone throw me a good node.
you can't lose money selling if you never harvest. It's
There you
180
go.
IQ.
I also can't compound on that harvest if it's not harvested. So technically I am losing money. Touche.
Did you
My
guys see
snowball.
the trading volume on BHBD today is nuts.
Oh, I'm sure. Like pumps are great for the bridge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I was
and just for
thinking-
the LPs. I mean, if you look at the LP reward APR, so this is like the built-in APR, so not including what you get paid in Cub. It's at 4.74% based on the last 7 days worth of performance. And like today generated over $100 in LP reward fees. So those are like the built-in rewards for just being an LP on an AMM, an automated market maker. So if you combine that 4.74, and obviously every week's not going to be that high, mainly when the pumps happen. But if you combine that with the APR offered on Cub, it's 31% right now, or if you compound, it's 36%. So basically like 36% plus 4%. So you're getting 40% APY on your HBD, at least during this pump. So it's pretty crazy. Because that's obviously double what you get on chain. Also, like, yeah, and you can see that the liquidity actually dropped a little bit since the pump. What a lot of people are doing, and I know I saw Neil jump in, and talk about what he was doing for the pump. What a lot of people are doing is withdrawing their LP position, taking advantage of the discrepancy in the price, and then basically just sitting in USDC or BUSD, and then buying back into HBD when it inevitably comes back down, which it kind of already has. I think it's at $1.01 now.
Yeah, it's smart. I don't know
So
why I didn't think to do that this morning.
yeah, so that's the benefit of, the BHBD, PHBD vaults. Obviously you're sitting liquid, and anyone who's staking on chain, that there's a 3-day unstaking time. So these HBD pumps that have been happening basically every few weeks, you can't really take advantage of them because you're essentially, you're essentially locked in for 3 days. So with the pools, you have instant liquidity, and that's pretty valuable. Instant liquidity is valuable when you see, pumps out of nowhere. So,
Indeed.
so
I haven't actually done any of that. So, I mean, if someone was holding BHBD, and obviously, let's say you have, BHBD, BUSD pool, and you get that, well, actually, if you get that pump, does it even help you by liquidating any of that? Because
which
aren't you
one?
just BHBD, BUSD?
Yeah,
I think
well,
it's,
okay. So what happens is when like, so let's say that HBD pumps to $1.10, which is what it did today. The BHBD BUSD pool will rebalance itself so that for
yes.
every one HBD in there, there's going to be 1.1 BUSD, right? So, and it's obviously super simplistic, but essentially then you can get more when you withdraw, you'll get more BUSD and less HBD. So then you can withdraw, and then if you want to sell, you could even take more advantage, and you can sell the BHBD at that $1.10 price, and now you're basically sitting on a bunch of BUSD, essentially 10% more BUSD, or close to 10% more than what you originally started with in terms of your LP position. And then you wait for HB to come back down, and then you buy back in either through BHBD or through, sending that BUSD to a centralized exchange, converting it to Hive, and then buying on the internal exchange. And that's, that's how you profit on it. You can make a couple percent and then jump back in.
So what about if someone's holding liquid HBD, right? And you see a pump and then you wrap it, right? So now you're holding BHBD, and let's say the current price is whatever, $1.10. Could you at that point just sell that BHBD for BUSD on like Pancake Swap to take
Yeah.
advantage of that?
Yeah. As long as the BHBD price is the time to do that would be when the BHBD price is equal to or higher than the internal market price,
Gotcha.
which is what happened today. I mean, the price of BHBD, pull up the chart. The price of BHBD, I think, went up to like $1.11 at the high. So, yeah, 1.1.
Well, I guess BHBD would have to be higher because a lot of times there is that discrepancy where HBD is like, let's just say $1.15, and BHBD is like printing at 105. And I guess that's where you kind of take advantage of the ARB opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I was hoping to do is just way too simplistic and easy money. And doesn't really seem like it's an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean,
right,
it's sometimes you just got to pick the simpler method. I think that's what Neil was basically saying in chat is, sometimes the complex one is what will get you. It'll get you wrapped up in doing a bunch of stuff that you don't need to do. Yeah, here I'm posting this chart. So you can see it spiked up, and then so obviously all this arbitrage, you can see the volume just spiked like crazy. Yeah, I mean, so if you would have un-LP'd, so like let's say that you would have removed liquidity at the top, you would have basically made out with more BUSD than HBD, and then you could have bought back in. And now obviously you can buy back in at $1. So yeah, I mean, just learning how to take advantage of these little different pumps in HBD has been a great arbitrage. And then obviously the CUB bridge is really killing it in terms of revenue. The wrapping fees are going to be astronomical today, just because you can see there was $59,000 traded on just the BHBD BUSD pair. So that doesn't include all the other pairings, because BHBD actually has 3 pairs on CUB now. So I don't think this was live last time we did an AMA, but we launched a new pool last week for BHBD and Beehive. So now you can pool HBD and Hive together on BSC. And what's the APR? The APR is 37% right now for pooling HBD and Hive on Cub. So if you pool those, you're obviously building bridge liquidity as well, and taking advantage of pumps like this, because the fees for that pool were super high too. And then the third pool is the BHBD Cub pool. So what we've essentially done with Cub, which is what I'm really excited about as this liquidity grows, is all these different pools, when the HBD price goes up or when the Hive price goes up, or even when they go down, they're creating arbitrage in all 4 of these different pools. Actually, I think it's more than 4. Or no, four multi-token bridge pools. So in all 4 of these multi-token bridge pools, when there's any discrepancy in price, there's arbitrage in one of the pools, which creates arbitrage in all of the pools. And you're basically just creating this kind of circular arbitrage that's just generating fees in every direction. So what I'm excited about is how much Cub that gets burned from all of that. It's kind of like this exponential figure that you can't really put numbers to it in the long run. Like if the liquidity doubles, that doesn't mean that the burns double. The burns will more than double. And our brains just aren't built to handle the exponential of that.
Indeed.
Yeah, the Cub volume today was like $25,000, I think, in trading volume across the 4 different Cub pairs. So
Nice.
Pretty crazy. Morty asked on LeoThreads, when full text search on LeoFinance.io. So in case you don't know, the mobile app actually has full text search. We built it, and we built our own engine for it, which was super complex. And we haven't migrated it to desktop yet, but we will at some point. We don't really have a clear timeline for it yet, but the back end is all built for it. So it's mostly just about integrating it on the front end and making sure that it's not buggy in terms of, if a lot of people start using it at once, and then how the desktop app integrates with mobile. So that all of that is part of the Leo merge idea. So we will see that in this universe, but not yet.
This universe. Submitting my help desk ticket. I haven't submitted a ticket in eons.
So the focus on the Leo desktop UI has really been around threads. Obviously everyone's probably noticed that, but basically making threads a super good experience, making it fast and reliable and scalable, and rewarding, obviously, and just, really changing the dynamics of what LeoFinance means. And I'm really happy with the progress. I think today's update is going to bring a lot of people to threads and get them using it regularly. I know it's going to get it. I know it helps me because, just personally, posting on threads was kind of a pain in the ass before, when I was on the go, say I was, walking through a grocery store or waiting at a doctor's office or something. And, I would pull up threads to write something really quickly when I had a random thought, and waiting, 60 seconds for the UI to load is painstaking. So just the fact that now you can just load up the UI instantly and just write a quick thread, that's what it's meant for. So.
Oh yeah. As of 26 minutes ago, according to Twitter, new LeoThreads update is live.
Yep. It is live.
Now, does that impact both mobile and desktop, or was that just from mobile?
This is for desktop. So LeoFinance.io. The Leo mobile app is going to get an update soon. I'm not sure when. Hopefully, I'm targeting the end of September for threads on Leo mobile. So you'll be able to open the mobile app and thread from mobile. And obviously it'll share it with desktop. So it's all using the same backend, but on the front end, you'll be able to thread from Leo Mobile and LeoFinance.io.
Cool.
And also
This
like
threads.
the trickle down effects of this threads update is that it actually reduces a lot of load off of Lightning. So you'll actually see, you'll probably notice if you use the UI, like to read posts or make comments or anything like that outside of threads, you'll probably notice some big performance updates in terms of that. And that's because we've basically taken this massive database load off of Lightning and reduce that bottleneck. So this should be very impactful for every user, whether you're actively using threads or not.
It is indeed loading fast. In fact, I should write a when soon show recap.
Yeah, Nifty's saying shh, he wants to stack up more CUB. Yeah, there's this interesting push and pull because obviously we all want the CUB price to go up, but at the same time we want the bridge revenue to burn a lot of CUB, especially since we've created so much CUB over the last year without having really a good method of burning CUB. So what's happening now is that the CUB price is so low that the bridge revenue is able to buy up, hundreds of thousands of CUB super cheap and burn it. So, a part of me wants to see the CUB price go up because I know that will mean that we get more bridge liquidity because the APYs will increase. But the other part of me wants the CUB price to stay super low so that the CUB DAO can keep buying CUB super cheap and burn it and reduce the supply. I would love to see the supply get reduced heavily over the next few months towards the end of the year from the bridge revenue, just destroying a ton of CUB from the supply. So yeah, kind of an interesting yin yang, because you want the CUB price to increase and make us all rich, but you also want the CUB price to stay low so that it can increase more in the future. I think CUB is going to get super interesting throughout this bear market as we kind of stack up this liquidity and then burn a bunch of CUB at these lows. And then when the bull market hits, I think things could really take off. We could see CUB kind of retrace back to where it used to be when it was generating a lot more revenue from kingdoms and stuff like that. The bridge just generates exponentially more revenue than any potential kingdom or any other setup that we could have imagined. So it's really fascinating to see kind of this plan come together.
What's the threads update? What was the change you said? Now, did you say it took a burden off of Lightning, or what exactly was the mechanic that is now making it so fast?
Yeah, so Cool jumped into the AMA chat if you search his username. But basically he said, like I explained, basically what's happening is before this threads update, there was like a singular bottleneck to threads. Now we've created this kind of multi-container approach, like this buffer where there's like this server that's interacting with the UI and a separate server that is interacting with the backend. That backend server is pulling all the threads constantly. So it's constantly updating the threads, but the front end server is only pulling from those threads from the backend server on a specific schedule. And what that's done is reduce the bottleneck and the burden on Lightning. So you'll notice that threads is ridiculously fast now. It's actually probably the fastest part of the UI, but then also all the posts and everything else across the UI has gotten faster because we've reduced that huge bottleneck on threads or on Lightning. So, that bottleneck getting reduced has really just impacted every part of LeoFinance in terms of performance. So it's basically just a massive, in simple terms, basically just a massive performance update that impacts the whole UI. and the Leo mobile app too, since it uses Lightning.
Cool deal.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more people jump into Threads. I think, you know, we've seen our monthly active users increase since the launch of Threads, which is awesome. But I think having this performance update is going to bring a lot of people back who were potentially turned off by the slow loading speeds.
100%, because that's always the issue. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I got to wait more than like 5 seconds for something to load. I'm just like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah. Let's before we jump off, let's do a little bit of crypto talk, because I think there's kind of some interesting things going on. You know, what we've seen, like, you know, lately in crypto is just kind of this sideways action. I mean, we did see a little bit of a pump over the weekend, but we've kind of retraced that whole thing by now. Let's see if I can post this chart. We've kind of retraced that entire pump from the weekend, which sucks. But you know, despite that, I think you know, I do think we've reached a bottom in crypto. I don't really see it going lower. I was talking to someone the other day who was saying they thought that the bottom would be probably somewhere around $7,500 for per Bitcoin. And I don't see it getting that low, to be honest. I think it could potentially go lower than that 18,000 bottom that we saw, but I would be very surprised to see it go lower than that.
Yeah, my hopes of buying at like 13,800 is probably out the window, but never say never. Who knows what's going to happen with the economy and stocks and
Right.
whatnot. But otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you where I don't know that we see, you know, below like 17, or, you know, kind of just that high teens range that it keeps teasing. What sidebar? What you mentioned a couple stats in regards to like cub burns of late. Just give me something, because I forgot what those numbers were.
The
Did you say
burns.
something about today or this month or something so
Yeah.
far?
So last month we burned 200,000. You can see that in
Yep.
the last Cub report. And then this month so far we burned about 70,000 Cub.
Cool.
So that puts our total Cub burned at 777,000 right now. When the Cub multi-token bridge launched, we were at 500,000 total Cub burned. So that's, you know, 270,000 since the launch of the bridge. And we're on pace for the DAO to burn 300,000 Cub this month. So that DAO contract is constantly buying Cub. Especially if you do follow the contract, you basically will see it buy, especially when people sell a large chunk of Cub. It'll buy immediately after, because it's obviously able to get filled at a better price. So I do think we're going to burn about 300,000 by the end of the month, which will push us at a total figure for total Cub burned over 1 million Cub. So I think that's going to be kind of a psychological point for a lot of people, where they see a lot of progress being made on the burns, and that's going to get exciting.
Indeed. Yeah, bring up my chart. Kind of with you on the Bitcoin thing. I feel like the more we grind sideways, the less likely we see any kind of crazy new low. We could still see a new low, but nothing like, you know, in terms of like black swan type numbers.
Yeah.
Economic conditions notwithstanding.
Got a question from Solmi on Threads. Will we have an AMA or a UI update so we can see our own threads and answers to our threads? Yeah, that's in the next update. So we kind of pushed the feature updates to behind this performance update that we released today, just because obviously, you know, for the reasons I said, like performance was really hindering the user experience. So now that this performance update is out and it's stable and we're seeing people you know, have great loading speeds. I mean, the loading speed now is literally like 5 seconds. So now that we've kind of reduced that big burden of performance, it's time to get back to, the feature updates. So if you go back to that roadmap post, I don't remember when it was, probably sometime last month, we talked about adding a profile page where you can see your own threads and reply to people. And then also a new feed page where you can kind of organize threads that that you want to see better. So those updates will be out in the Sooniverse, the very Sooniverse.
Yep. Oh, how could we not talk about freaking ETH, about general crypto, the merge? When's that supposed to be? What,
true.
tomorrow?
Yeah, about to see the Ethereum merge.
Yeah, let's kind of touch on that to wrap up the AMA.
Yeah.
As far as the merge goes, obviously I've seen things about people, saying, "Oh, make sure you have your stuff off exchange and have it like, in a wallet to potentially, get any airdrops there may be, blah, blah, blah." I'm not super concerned about that, but at the same time, I don't want to, block myself from any potential free money. With that said, though, is obviously wrapped ETH isn't going to be eligible for anything like that. But I guess the more basic question is if people are sitting in like, the like WETH, WBTC, pool on PolyCUB, is there anything they need to do because of the merge? Can they just leave it there and all is good? What's the perfect public service announcement in regards to that stuff?
Yeah, I never keep money on exchanges for a lot of reasons. But yeah, like Nifty's saying, there's so many scams going on. Whenever there's any sort of volatility in crypto, whether it's price volatility or even just development volatility where things are being released and there's new things to learn and get familiar with, there's going to be a lot of scams. So my PSA would be 3 times as cautious as you would normally be. So, when you're sending funds anywhere, be sure that you're sending it to the right place. I personally, I don't keep money on exchanges. I am not confident in the way that exchanges handle funds. So, when you look at, the most local example to all of us being Hive users is the whole Steam debacle, where everyone that was holding Steam on exchanges had their Steam basically powered up and utilized against their will on voting for governance. And actually, a lot of exchanges had liquidity problems because they powered up all of the Steam and then they weren't able to service withdrawals. So, even before that, I was very cautious about holding capital on exchanges. But ever since that situation, I've been, exponentially more cautious when it comes to utilizing exchanges and keeping funds on them. So I basically keep like day-to-day working capital on an exchange, if I know that I'm going to be moving some stuff around. But at the end of the day, I remove all the capital from exchanges, push it to my own wallets with my own private keys. The best practice in crypto is the most fundamental, which is not your keys, not your crypto. So make sure you hold your crypto on a wallet where you've got the keys and you have full control and full access. There's probably going to be all sorts of airdrop scams and people telling you to send 1 ETH and get 6 ETH back. If you see anything like that, it is a scam. Just be very cautious. It's, who knows if this merge is going to be smooth or not. My personal opinion is that it will be pretty smooth. But that being said, it might be a good time to kind of walk away from the computer and not do anything during the merge. That's kind of my personal approach. I won't really be doing anything with Ethereum for the next like 2 or 3 days. So
agreed.
That's my PSA.
Well, and that's pretty much, why I threw the question out there, because it's like, does anyone really need to do anything? And, the answer is kind of like, no. Outside of maybe just pulling off centralized exchanges. But, for instance, like I said, any funds I have like in wrapped ETH pools on Cub or PolyCUB, I can basically just leave those be because they're So like in the end, if I was to unwrap, let's say 2 weeks from now, I'm going to just be unwrapping to, I guess, what we'll call new ETH is my
Yeah.
assumption. Yep. It's always good when you can just chill and you don't have to do work due to these changes.
That's the best. Do nothing, get rich.
Exactly.
Sweet.
All that.
So I think that's a pretty good place to wrap. Keep your eyes open for the CPI numbers. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see what next month brings. Obviously, this
Yeah.
month didn't help things.
Right.
The When Soon Show recap post is done. Just
Nifty
as we
said,
were
make sure you
wrapping
turn
up.
that recap post into a threads thread. That'd be cool.
I have no idea. All right, I'll figure out how to do that because sadly,
Just
I've never
make
even
a
done,
make a
never
thread.
done a
You just
thread.
make a thread and then click on it after you make it. And then in that first reply box, just reply to yourself. And then just always do it from that first reply box. And then you'll just create a thread, and then it'll create threads beneath the thread, and then people can read it. And if they're too lazy to read your post, they can just skim through it like a thread on Twitter.
I believe I understood that. It'll be easier once I actually hit the threads. Post is publishing. I will drop it into chat now for those that want to share it with the people that were not here for us live. If it wants to publish, come on, LeoFinance, don't fail me now. That's something I've actually noticed over the last, I don't know how long that it takes. That one's a little bit quicker, but definitely takes a while for the post to actually push through. This has been a little bit better. But let me get back to Discord.
Nice.
There's the post. All right, so if I hit on threads, and then I hit, I guess, the thread button, there you go.
Thread button.
And then what do I do now? A box pops up where I can create a thread.
Right. So create whatever you want the top level thread to be. Say weekly When Soon Show recap. 9/13/2022, basically like the title of your post. And then, what I like to do is do the emoji for like, fingers pointing down. And then you can say thread, something like that.
/13/2022. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I got Discord muted at least. I think I pulled a neck muscle turning so fast away from the mic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Cool, Cal. I don't know what, I don't want to ruin it by correcting it, but it's actually one process doing that. I don't even know what you mean by that. Color me ignorant. I'm acting like a non-millennial right now. How do you add emojis?
Are you on Windows or Mac?
Windows.
There's a command, I think, on depending on what version you're on, to pull up like a little emoji window. We'll have emojis built into threads one day, but not yet.
I was not aware of that. I will Google that and figure out how to do that. That's cool. Cool deal.
Yep.
I just got learned.
Sweet.
Like Nifty said, one step, click thread and type.
Yeah,
that's what Cat is going to do.
Today was September 13th. We'll see you guys next week on the 20th.
Indeed.
We had a big threads update today. So if you're listening, make sure you go after this, go out onto threads and make some threads. Test it out. Let us know what you think of the update and how we can improve it, stuff like that.
Do
And
it.
we'll see you next week.
Indeed. Recap thread kicking off. Tell us what you want to know for next week. Tell us what you liked and tell us what you hated.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Until
See you
next
guys.
week.
Yep. Peace.
Crypto to the moon.